Welcome. This is Barry Jones from the Angel School, and we're here for a weekly angel reading for June 3rd through the 9th, 2019. So let's take a deep breath as we just center in our heart space, and as we sort of begin this first full week of the month of June. And let us just allow ourselves to be aware of the shifts that are occurring at this time. And while paying attention to your spiritual truth and its wisdom, and being aware of the subtle differences that are unfolding, that are representing forward movement, sort of change, moving in new directions, paying attention to what's sort of emerging from your soul and what it's desiring and what it's ready to let go of. Now they're writing the word lack. So this shift may create this some anxiety around the energy of lack. And so you're going to really have to be aware of this in some way, so that you don't want the energy of lack, which is just I believe it's at the foundation of what drives our fear. So we want to be very aware when things start to change, when things start to move, that this aspect of us, this lower frequency, is triggered. And so in a way, it's never going to actually go away, because this is just part of our human experience. And it's the duality that this physical universe is based upon, this way of measuring and understanding. So, this the duality is a way for us to understand choices. It's a way for us to sort of discover, and just leave it at that. The best way to say it is that the duality is the way for us to discover. And as we discover, as we shift, if you could just imagine yourself, this feeling I'm getting right now, like if we were a part of the earth, and like a plant that, that's just breaking through the surface of the earth. And you can imagine if you could hear and feel the crumbling of the sounds of the soil around you, and it would be so loud because it's so connected to everything that you are in that moment. But as everything that you are in that moment is in a state of change, in a state of flux, and so nothing is secure as the soil moves and it rolls away and it crumbles around you as you move further into what it is that you're actually becoming. And so in that event is at the same time opportunity, and it's also triggering lack, because some things are falling away. And they'll become even more, they'll just become these insignificant particles They were a part of your development, but they're no longer needed for you to stand on the surface or to, arise above the surface. You're going through that evolution. And so you have to put all of this in perspective, I think, is what they really want you to understand about this feeling of lack. So they want you to put it in perspective, and hoping that this visual helps in some way to soften the blow, if you will. And they're just writing out the word bold. And every time that you move towards, so you may perceive this from the place of lack as taking risks, but they see your evolution, that each step of your evolution is a bold awakening. It's a bold assertion of your truth, of expression. And this is why none of us are really truly comfortable with expressing our truth, because our truth is so unique and very important and special to each of us. And this, when we are manifesting our desires, the universe is so filled with variety, and every time you offer something, you offer another component of that variety, leading edge. Yet within this, it is difficult and challenging as we seek so much to be validated by what already is. We want to fit in rather than stick out. And this is hard no matter in what way you stick out. And this is why it's not difficult for us to really empathize with others whose differences seem to strike a chord, seem to trigger in others a sense of insecurity and lack. We can all really identify when we pay attention to our little moments that don't seem, you seem to stick out, but you don't seem to, in some ways, encourage as much criticism for sticking out. Although there is always criticism around, it's whatever decisions that we make, but most of it is paying attention to the criticism that's coming towards you. And sometimes it's you conjure that because your own inner critic is so loud inside your head that you think that those thoughts are so real and that they're being projected towards you, when they're really being attracted to you from that point of attraction within yourself that is observing and giving over to this particular thing, that you start to see it even when it's maybe not there. So you then are the one who ends up encouraging it because you're so worried. It's like, remember, the strongest vibration rules. So you have to decide which vibration you're going to entertain. And that's why it's so important that you pay attention to what's really happening. And going back to that beautiful visual, what's always really happening is that when your world shakes a little bit, when the earth trembles a little bit, it's just the music of change, the universal song of freedom, and you standing in your truth and embracing your spiritual alignment. And so not to worry about the ways in which you're triggered. You're going to have to learn to embrace them, because these things are not going away. These are not the things that we should be waging a war against, since they're part of our natural order. They keep us somehow, I don't know if this is the right word. It's not the first word I'm searching for at all, but the word competent. And then it also helps to enforce our integrity, all the aspects of what happens, of this duality, the contrast. It helps us to know who we are, to know where we are and who we are. And this is why we should never really give in to this idea that we are lost or we are confused. In those moments, what you're doing is you're refusing to look at the information. You're refusing to sift through the information, because that's what the duality is there for. So you're not lost, you're just not looking at it. You're afraid of it. You allow the trigger, emotional trigger, to overwhelm and to overshadow what the event, the divine moment. Because every breath of your life is a divine moment, and we forget this because we feel fear and panic and anxiety and stress, and we allow this to be the template that we assume is our next event. At least we perceive the next event to be this, because what is happening is you are emerging, your truth is revealing. But it's up to you and I how we perceive that moment. You know, I think one of the things that helped me so much was, especially, and I just give you this example around performing for me, is it always freaks me out. And I know it does for everybody, but it really causes a lot of issues. And so my teacher, pointed out that it's just adrenaline. Like the thing that your body is registering or the thing that's happening in your body is adrenaline, is moving or being activated. And we interpret that it's sort of like being superstitious in a way. I don't know how I'm going to be able to explain this to you, but maybe you'll get it from what I'm saying. It's like, here's the natural function of what the body is doing as it responds to what the mind is trying to understand. So what's really happening is, in the natural order of the universe, is change. And change can be information, new downloads of information. Well, this is obvious because, no matter what's happening, we are surrounded. We're in this physical experience, and all of it is information, data. All of it. Just a simple word to use to describe it all. And so all of that data, like a computer, input and output. The input, once it goes in, the output, see, that's the part that you and I have to pay attention to. And so that's what the interpretation part is all about. She said you can interpret this as nerves, or you can interpret, anxiety, or you can interpret it as excitement. But at the core, it's just adrenaline running in response to the new stimulus. It's another word you could use for this information that you are perceiving. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. There's always this natural event of input, new information coming through, and when the brain starts to sort of register this and process it, once the processor starts running, it's just like on the computers where you can hear the processor, at least in the older ones. That you can hear it start to the fans start to move, and and so it's just like your adrenaline, your body does the same thing for every new experience. And sometimes because it registers with your eye as delight, so as you process it, you go, oh, this is what I like. It identifies it. It checks all the bells and whistles for you. And so your adrenaline moves the same way it does with the other. It's just that you automatically recognize this as something that you're excited about, whereas the other, you don't. Now, this can also be when there's something that's really something you don't want and is really not good for you. But it does feel a little different, doesn't it? I mean, I know that meeting someone, I'm trying to think of examples from my life. Like, I know being nervous about singing is nothing like being worried if, it's not the same response if someone were to suggest, I ride a roller coaster. I mean, there is no way that I'm ever excited about that, or that I would ever see this as a great opportunity. It's not the same kind of anxiety. The other one, I know deep down in myself, that change about getting on stage is, I know deep down that this is not something that I should really be entertaining in this way, but I've just allowed certain insecurities to predetermine that I must spend my days and preceding and right up to the moment I step out onto the stage, that it's just this, all the things that could go wrong, this horror movie that I must experience before I get on to the stage. But the thing is, I go because I know that I should not listen to it. It's like, that's the only thing that I would say is different. Like, I'm adamant about the roller coaster. Absolutely not. And I did try it once. I don't need to ever try it again. And this I've done over many times, and you perform it. And I know that at the end, I'm grateful. So, and there are changes that we experience change every day. And in the same way, that there are changes that you've made that you're grateful for. And there's certain changes that you are never going to do again. Once was enough, right? So you'll figure another route, because there are plenty of routes that change happens. And you don't need to choose one that that you don't want. So, but the thing here is what do we do when we know this is something we truly need in our lives, and it's something that we prayed for, but we're afraid? And we need to be aware that we need to find ways to shift this information to align with the values of our heart, so that we can be less tempted to sit on the sidelines, if you will. And this is about cultivating trust within ourselves and a confidence in our knowing, regardless of, what goes on in our head. That's just trying to sabotage us because we're afraid of failure, or we're afraid of rejection. Those things. And those things aren't really valid. But there are some people who they're so triggered that, and that's a whole nother separate conversation and another level of a mental health issue. But the majority of us live in this place that I'm describing, and without being discourteous to people where it's more intense. And I can tell you, if it wasn't for my new instruction, it would have probably been that kind of intensity. So let's take a look and see what the archangels have messages for us this week, and see where all of this is taking us, preparing us for. Okay, so the Archangel Ariel, and the card is prosperity. And as I turn the card over, it kind of makes sense why this discussion would happen, because it is at the thought, or just at the moment when we're ready to, where there's a threshold for us to cross of opportunity and new possibilities and prosperity. This is where we're triggered the most. Doesn't make sense, does it? It's like we spend a lot of energy being triggered at this threshold instead of being triggered. And isn't it weird, the things that we shouldn't do, like they're clear that they're not healthy for us to do, that we almost have to, it's like we cross the threshold, or it's like something is sucking us into that threshold, and it's like we can't get away from it. It's like that we can't not do it. And I know that that's double negatives, but you get my point. It's like, it's something that we feel like we just, like we're doomed to do it. And it's so crazy, isn't it, that the things that we should rush towards, we run scared, and the things that we should avoid, we are lured, with a deep lust to go there. Like it's like almost like a glutton for punishment sort of thing. So the card says your material needs are provided as you follow your intuition and manifest your dreams into reality. And so the thing is that it's about aligning, recognizing. It's a practice, I think. I think you can't fight these impulses, because if you try to fix them, then you are only attaching yourself to that which you are trying to avoid. And so what you have to do is just begin a gentle practice, a new practice. But it has to be gentle. You have to find your way into this practice without, beating yourself up about your choices, your prior choices, and the things that are going on. Because when you beat yourself up, you attach yourself to the energy of the thing that you are trying to get away from. When you beat anybody up about anything, all you're doing is drawing their attention more towards the thing that you're trying to help them to move away from. It's so interesting that, there are some we, and probably most of us have done it at some point, where our intention is to inspire and to encourage someone, to empower them to let go of a weakness in their character, or something in their lives that is not healthy for them. And all we do is we reinforce the bad emotions, the negative emotions that has sort of lulled them into this spot and caused them to feel so powerless that they feel as though they are unable to do anything about it, and so do not. And the way, to help people is to be present with them, to encourage them, to love them, to treat them in such a way that shows them that they deserve better. Sometimes it's better not to just point it all out to them, but to just be that presence. Be it. Be for yourself what you want for another. That inspires people a great deal when you live you live as best you can what it is that you would desire for them. When they see it, that inspires them. It creates little shifts of change. And when they want to interact with you about the subject, then that's when you really know that they can be open, and that this could be also healing for you to continue to move further in your own journey as you now share all of it, your doubts, your hopes. You become equals in this way, because even though you may be a little bit ahead, you are still struggling at the point where you are. And it's not about being ahead. It's not a race. It's not really about the linear thing. It's about the experience of that's sort of universal. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're struggling with something, it doesn't matter that you're struggling a little less or a little more, because you're still struggling, and it's still an effort, a practice to struggle less. So you both still can relate. Do you get what I'm talking about there? So it's really important that that if you're going to help somebody, that you help them by being the best that you can be. And that does not mean perfect, because if you think that anything about my life is perfect or more perfect than yours, then you're really, really going to be disappointed. The thing that allows me to be present is because this is a calling for me. This is a purpose. And I have been helped more by doing what I'm doing than if I had not done it at all. I would be I'd be somewhere else and not where I am in terms of understanding. Because if we don't have understanding, that enlightenment, we really can't do more for ourselves. But it doesn't matter how much more. I'm sure that there are plenty of people that, from what I've done, that they are further in their lives in terms of being happy than I am, because this is not how it works. It doesn't mean that, I stay ahead of everybody else. This is not what it is. This is why this doesn't matter. And when you compare yourself to others in the world around you, you're going to make yourself disappointed, because you will see that there are people you've helped who will be ahead of you. But that is not what matters. Because what you have to understand is that they are still dealing with whatever it is you help them with, but they're just they're managing it. They're learning, I don't want to say they're managing it better. They're trying to avoid doing that, because we're just so stuck on better, comparatives. They're managing. And you're managing where you are, and they're managing where they are. It's just going to end it like that, okay? So let's take a look at the cards for this week. And so hopefully you would gather from this is that you are always where you need to be, and you are gathering what you need to gather. And it's up to you to appreciate your lane, where you are, to appreciate who you are and what you're experiencing, in order to increase the experiences, the opportunity of experiences that you would like in your life. First, you have to understand that this is prosperity. Being able to appreciate and acknowledge this about yourself. Once you're able to do that, this is where you'll really see the acceleration take shape. All right, let's take a look at the card for the beginning of the week. And we have the King of Wands. So the King of Wands is really about having that vision. And it's interesting with this card. She always has this energy of the sun in a lot of the cards. So the energy of the sun is like this, idea of strength, power, success. And of the kings in this card, he's the only one I think that's wearing shorts. And so it's this thing about being yourself, and not afraid to reveal who you are. I think most Leos or fire signs, especially Leo, they have a lot of confidence, and they facilitate the ability to express their creativity, and I want to say the clearest way. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but they just are highly creative. But the King of Wands also represents being a great visionary. In this way, being a leader that empowers and has a great charm and charisma. People feel good around this king, and so there's this feeling of energy, enthusiasm, that you have this ability to evoke in your life. So there's this energy, feeling like a connecting with this. There is, if you don't, and most of us don't, I would not call myself this kind of person, but this would then probably encourage us to be brave and courageous about the things that we know we're confident about. So, here's a great lesson here. It's like focus on the things that you are confident about, the things that you have clear visions about. This is where you would want to focus right now. Focus your attention where you have this clear vision of something. Don't, I'm not saying drop something that you're doing, but let's say it's something that you're doing and you just don't feel that great about it. Then find a thing within that, because it probably has to be done, where you do feel really confident. You need to highlight those parts of the project or those aspects of yourself in order to really gain momentum in what it is that you're doing. All right, let's take a look at the card for the middle of the week. Okay, so the first word I'm seeing here is patience with the Knight of Pentacles. That's the word I'm kind of hearing as I turn the card. So, this is about being patient and taking your time. Don't feel like you're in a rush or hurried. You need to be very clear. So get very clear within yourself about what it is that you feel that you're confident about. Or this may be, because he's looking at the King of Wands, it may be that you need to get clear about, it's sort of like when you know your mind, and you know what you can do. Okay? And so you need to be clear about your conviction for yourself and really focus on that. Focus on the details of that. The Knight of Pentacles for me is someone who's very meticulous about how they plan, how they work. They don't mind working hard, and they're generous with their time and they're devoted. So, but there's this patience. They're not ready to just jump in and what's the word I'm looking for? Oh gosh, I don't know why. I'm sure you all hear it in your heads, right? But they're not, irrational or hasty. They know the night of this night, who nights about that purpose, seeking to serve in some way, in some capacity. But I feel like you need to choose and plan what it is that you are really confident about and what you feel strongly about, and then handle that responsibility, so don't allow yourself to get pushed into doing something that you're not ready to do, or that you're not feeling. I feel like let's not get too much into the feelings, because then we may misinterpret again from our discussion before. It's like when we know that there's something that we're just afraid of it, we're being triggered, but we know it's the right thing to do. What I feel like this is about this practice we're talking about. We got to be gentle, and the Knight of Pentacles would be that gentle part of your character, because when you see the court cards come up, it's either a person in your life or it's a character you need to embody. And I feel like what you need to embody in this is that gentleness and that gentle practice. And this night is all about implementing a practice and implementing structure and order, and following things in a sort of a natural and order of things. So if you start this new practice, and this is what the practice is, where you start focusing, when you're afraid, find the things that you're confident about. Accentuate the things, highlight the things in this situation for you where you're clear. Like if you had to speak, somebody asked you to in a team they were saying, okay, let's do this, you do this, you do that, and then you identify what you're really good at and speak up for that and say, okay, this is my area, and I think I can really do a really great job with this, instead of letting yourself do something where you're not. It's that way. Practice being confident by focusing on the things that you're confident within, and do them, and then you'll be more open to exploring other things where you're not so confident. But start by building a practice. Not saying that you got to exclude, because things are not gonna work out that way for you if you just try to always avoid, because in doing that you're also practicing your fear. But really, just like when you're inspired, when you see it, then go for it. Don't sit on that and let it pass you by. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the card for the end of the week. All right, and so we have the Four of Swords, and this is kind of cool because 3 of the swords are rested in her hair. And this is the suit about the mind, and so this is about relaxing and giving your mind a break here. And it's, you see how they're just laid out there, and it's about, and I like it because they're double pointed, like terminated, look like terminated crystals. So you're letting the energy just go in and out, that input and output. So you're taking the time to sort of connect deep within, be aware. And instead of trying to wrestle with the information, you're just reflecting, you're sifting through, you're allowing. And in doing so, you gain new possibilities. You gain sort of new awareness. So this is a time to let yourself, you're enlightened by not wrestling here with the information, but you're just giving yourself a chance to reflect about what's best. And I feel like at the end of the week, if you don't, so I mean, this could be the end of the week, but this could also be just within the entire reading, to not push, to not wrestle with, to not make choices that hurt you, like with the 3 of Swords before it, or to make choices that causes you to get into battles with others, which would be like sort of the 5 afterwards, So be the person, be the calm, the eye in the storm, so to speak, and come from a place of confidence and vision, purpose. Be very intentional that you are, whatever you're choosing, it's heart, soul related, that your choices are coming from that deep place. And you know, when it comes from that place, this is something that your soul is gifted in offering to the world. And you know that you can be successful when you make choices from there. Okay, so now we have a major arcana card coming from the bottom of the deck that's sort of giving us a sense of what's sort of going on in terms of the influence underneath this reading. And so it's the death card. And so that means that we are sort of like we were talking about before, we're going through a huge transformation. We are letting go and we are embracing. And so this means uncertainty, but to not allow the fear, because when people see this card, it triggers fear. And this is probably one of the reasons for the cards being as they are, where the tarot shows all of the voices of our minds, of our souls, so that we can deal with them, so that we can heal, that we can shift our perspective and readjust. And so change, that we've been discussing is, I call it the little change, and the actual death that everybody thinks about, I call it the big change, or the greatest one in our human experience. But all the ones in between, it's all about the same. It's about releasing, letting go to embrace the greater. Every one of them, from the little to the biggest one, is the exact same thing. None of them are an ending, but every one of them is a beginning at the moment of the ending. So this is what you're being asked to allow right now. It's more about you allowing than really exacting any kind of particular action. But this is not to say that there isn't any action going on, but you got to have that clear vision. And with our knight here, make plans from the confidence of your heart. Make those plans that your heart is most confident about. That's sort of what I wanted to say about that. All right, so I send you lots of love and angel blessings, and thank you for joining us this week. And if you're looking for an angel reading, you can contact me at theangelschool.com, which you can find in the description link below. There's a link there. And also you can join us on Twitter and my Facebook page, where I do the daily card messages. So if you haven't been there yet, if you have not subscribed to this channel, then make sure you do that. And thank you all for your comments and your likes. They're appreciated, and I love seeing sort of the feedback. It was interesting to see some of the feedback from last week. There was a little thread about clearing things, and I was feeling that same thing, and I'm still going to be working on it for a while. I'm going to work on it in more detail after my performances at the end of this month. So have a beautiful week, everyone, and God bless you all.